Today, we are going to be breaking down a 7-round 2026 NFL mock draft. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Blow my face is my board. It is not predictive. These are the players I love in the order I love them. Before you start getting some lip, understand that players in the 5th round sometimes are better than the 1st. That doesn't mean that they should be taken before those other players. So, understand that. But I do make my opinion solely in all 22. It is 100% honest because I believe that if I'm honest and I'm wrong, I get to learn from my mistakes. If I'm honest and I'm right, I get to learn from what I learned. But if I end up starting to try and copy other people, man, that's just wasting your time and I'm a fraud. So, not going to be doing that. There's a lot of those out there in this community. Not going to contribute to that group. But we have a lot of picks to get through. I do know the author of this mock draft. So, you know what? We're going to be able to keep things professional, but you guys know I like to rip into people from time to time, and it's all love. Number 1 overall, Vegas Raiders go Fernando Mendoza, quarterback at Indiana. We have a lot of picks to get through. This one's locked in, and honestly, I think it's a very good move. Fernando Mendoza, best quarterback of the class by a notable margin. However, maybe not like a supreme super talent. I still think he's damn good and has great personality, will be a good leader of the Raiders. At number 2, we have the New York Jets going Ruben Bain, edge out of Miami. After looking more into the defensive system that Aaron Glenn likes to run, I would prefer to go after Arvell Reese here as an edge because a 3-4 system, Ruben Bain's going to be a little bit more designated on the interior and then maybe into certain even packages be kicked out to the edge. I don't know if that would be worth a number 2 pick. At number 3, the Cleveland Browns trade up and they give number 65, or excuse me, they get number 65 as well, and they end up giving their 2nd round pick and number 70. So a 5-spot move up for the number 39 pick and a 3-spot move up here. But the Browns go Carnell Tate. I don't think this is necessary, but again, in the grand scheme of things, let's see how this ends up panning out because at least it's something different. But I don't think that Carnell Tate would have been taken at 4, even if he would. There's a lot of other players, in my opinion, that would have been a good fit for the Browns at number 6. And I don't see the value in giving up that 2nd round pick, especially after the defensive player of the year was just selected with your early 2nd round pick. Number 4, the Titans go David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech, which kind of makes me more validated in my opinion of that. I don't think Carnell Tate would have been the selection over David Bailey at that point. Again, Arvell Reese still available, but David Bailey, a pure pass rusher. And if the Titans really want to go after that, they can. Saleh ended up drafting a developmental higher floor run defending, but still really good ceiling as a pass rush edge last year in the top 10. And hasn't necessarily worked out there yet. Unfortunately, injury ended up being the primary reason for that with Michael Williams, but maybe he wants to go more for the pass rush than the run defense floor. I don't think this would be a good move personally. There's a lot of good pass rushers in this class, and I prefer to take a swing on someone like Arvell Reese, who's a little bit more of a unique player as well as a balanced one. Number 5, we have the New York Giants going Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. It's really all down to medical questions. You know, a lot of time missed for Jordan Tyson. Doesn't seem like a lot of those injuries are connected. So maybe it's just a string of bad luck, but probably the wrong stadium to send someone who might have some bad luck with injuries. So I still think the talent is well requisite. Two of your top star players, there we go, are coming back from injury, severe injury, if I may. So maybe this would end up being, somebody who can end up taking a little bit of the stress off. But especially with the new coaching staff in, I would personally believe that Arvell Reese would be on the table here. Just thinking that, right now, Roquan Smith was a big reason why the Baltimore Ravens ended up having a lot of success, or at least ended up having, some competitive advantages over some other teams. So having a high quality linebacker / edge would be pretty damn important. And I think that linebacker at 5, given the upside of Arvell Reese, is not a bad thing. Number 6, you got the Arizona Cardinals, and they go CC Maui Noah, right tackle Miami. It would be the move I'd make at number 3. So you get an extra 2nd round pick out of this. I would be a huge supporter from the Cardinals side of things. Monty Austinfort, once again, gets a damn good deal. What are we doing here? Ad blockers end up screwing me over every time. I need to just give the cookies so you guys get to see some absolutely horribly boring ads. My search history, unfortunately. I know that some of y'all want it to be more entertaining than it is, but it pretty much is pretty damn barren. brain rot is where you might end up getting me. My algorithm might be a little bit more screwed on that regard rather than on the cookies for the internet. But anyways, Washington Commanders go Arvell Reese, edge out of Ohio State. Value's perfect here. I think this would be an amazing fit for the Commanders, something that you run up to the podium. Number 8, the Saints go Spencer Fano, lineman out of Utah. I assume they're saying that because he has the ability to be a guard as well as a tackle hybrid. So they're not limited to Fano at guard. They could keep him to tackle and then put Fuaga inside, which I ended up bringing up back when I ended up loving Fuaga, that I said he had Hall of Fame guard potential. So I don't really mind that. Honestly, if the Saints continue to do this, it's not the end of the world at all. I think Fano's a great talent. I think there are other players I would heavily prefer over Fano at this point. However, if this does happen, like, you have to invest in the offensive line. It's a premium position. It's very hard to continue sniping players and have them be worth, starting on your team. I think depth-wise, it's okay to push it down the board. But if you see someone who is a high-quality offensive lineman, especially an offensive tackle, that is worth the pick that you're taking, you can't shame a team for going after it. Maybe you could just prefer something else. At 9, the Chiefs go Caleb Banks, defensive interior out of Florida. Obviously, I personally don't believe that this is a good move. There's a lot of quality defensive interiors in this draft. The Chiefs have a lot of needs. There's a lot of really good value, especially at more rare positions, more scarce positions like running back, for example. Right now, obviously, obviously with Jeremiah Love, but there's just a multitude of other players that, in my opinion, would fit a lot better on the Chiefs than Caleb Banks based on the value of this pick. If this is second round, I think I'd be a little bit more open to it. But I mean, pretty extensive list of reasons why you don't want Caleb Banks this high. One of them being he didn't play that much this past year. Wasn't necessarily that great at the Senior Bowl in 11 on 11s, which he gets broadcasted for the one-on-ones, which, yeah, someone with 35-inch arms is going to dominate against pretty mediocre, mid-tier interior offensive linemen in a drill that they're designed to win. So I'm not a fan of that one. Number 10, the Bengals go Caleb Downs, defensive back at Ohio State. BPA, great player. I think this would be a fantastic move. As a Steelers fan, I wouldn't like it, but as a fan of the all 32 teams for the show, it is something I love. Number 11, the Dolphins go Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver at USC. I think this is basically what the Dolphins are starting to look at. I hear that there's some rumors that they're open to trade backs. Again, I would love to get to the point where I could start utilizing connections, but I do think that would lose a lot of the fun. And it's nice to be able to let other people who, have those connections basically leverage them and either get manipulated and take the blame or end up giving us some cookies. But, I personally wouldn't take enough stock into inside information at the moment. But it does look like the Dolphins are in fire sale mode. That's pretty damn obvious. Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and I think a couple other guys got released today. So they're definitely on the acquisition of capital side of things, which would include trading down. And if they're looking at wide receiver, there's a lot of good ones in this class. So I don't think that it would be a bad idea to be able to move down, especially if you target someone like Mekhi Lemon. Might be able to get him down the board, or there might be another receiver like Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion that you feel comfortable with, while also acquiring a third, maybe a second round pick. So that's my thought process there. I still think if they stick and pick, especially with Tyreek Hill gone, Mekhi Lemon would be a very good asset. Number 12, we got the Cowboys going Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State. Good move. Again, good linebacker class. I'm about to drop a video over the next week, and I have like 2 or 3 more guys I want to grade. It'll be a top 20, but for the show, it'll be a top 10. Got to give those Patreon supporters something. It's a little bit special for them, so I want to be able to get that out for you guys as much as possible. $5 a month to get the full board, every single player that I've evaled, and then also extended videos from the show in positional rankings as well as watching them early. So $5 a month. We have a crew of over 100 people there, over 40, if I'm not mistaken. We're closing in on 50 paid members as well. God bless you guys. I love y'all. Number 13, Rams go Jermon McCoy, corner out of Tennessee. Jermon McCoy is my corner 5, just based on injury, based on the fact he hasn't played literally since January 2025. It wasn't to that degree. I mean, people who want to say that his tape was jaw-dropping, I mean, we try to shit on Ryan Williams, and I think people heavily overvalue that tape. But there's a lot of stuff. You'll look at shout out to Bengals and Brews. Those guys are they do an amazing job, especially in terms of the quantity of content they produce, but also the quality. They had a video talking about Jermod McCoy, and their first clip was something that clearly would have been like he just did not have the change of direction ability to go from north to south. And a quarterback in the NFL would have timed it properly rather than being a pass breakup would have been a big gain. So there's aspects of Jermod McCoy that people I just do not think are factoring in properly. He's a damn good corner. He's one of the best press corners that you'll see. He's smart in cover 3/4, but there are aspects of his game that are much weaker than what people want to give credit for. He also has essentially 1 year of legitimate like top end experience and hasn't played since 2024 or January 2025. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to take him here, and it's a damn good corner class. Again, I don't feel the need to take him at 13. But again, we have 300 picks. I'm not going to spend this much time on a lot of them, but the ones that need to have some discussion, I'm going to do that. 14, the Ravens go Oliva. Or I'm not going to say the first part, but Venya. Apparently the G is an N. That's why people say CC Maui Noah. I can't tell. I mean, I'm trying my best here, guys. But Yowani is how you say the last name. Guard out of Penn State. High floor guard. Apparently, Filele is $10.5 million a year. I think he should be $0.5 million a year to be able to, just put him on the practice squad. You need to have a guard, and Yowani would be a really high floor, solid option to do that. 15, the Buccaneers go Peter Woods, defensive lineman out of Clemson. Good curveball. Peter Woods keeps falling. To me, he's the second best player in the class. I like him a ton in terms of the ability to disrupt plays. He doesn't finish them, and maybe I can drop him a spot or two because of that. However, I value the player being in the right spot at the right time. If you don't finish the play, you're still changing the outcome. And to me, that's step one. 95% of players will not get to where Peter Woods will get. And 99% of them won't do it as efficiently, in my opinion. So I was a really big Peter Woods, conservative guy starting out the year, but I still fully believe in his ability. And, for the Buccaneers, this is just BPA. I don't mind this at all. I mean, you're just going best player available. Number 16, the Jets go Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Fantastic value for the Jets. Obviously, I don't think this is going to happen, but this would be an ideal situation for the Jets to walk out of there with Jeremiah Love. 17, the Lions go Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn. Honestly, this is a semi-realistic pick. Keldrick Falk is high floor, young. This is a building piece for a younger portion of the defense and, somebody who will establish the early downs, and especially in the NFC North, the running game is pretty damn crucial. So it's not an exciting pick, not the pick I would go with. I'd prefer Monroe Freeling, but Keldrick Falk, it is an understandable move and something that it mimics some of the other edge rushers they've acquired in the past. 18, you get the Vikings going Caden McDonald, defensive interior at Ohio State. I just don't think Caden McDonald is to that tier. I think he's a lot more inconsistent. I was a big Caden McDonald guy coming into the year. The Vikings do need defensive interior. I don't mind it. However, I just think it's a little bit early. There's a lot of top corners on the board. There's other defensive interiors, in my opinion, that are better at the same size, like Lee Hunter. That's just my personal opinion. And I like Caden McDonald. Again, this is nothing to bag on Caden, but it's a top 20 pick. I prefer someone with a little bit more pass rush potential, than Caden McDonald. Number 19, you got the Panthers going Akeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami. Has a frame similar to Nick Scorton, has a little bit shorter arms, but elite pass rusher with, enough run defense capability. Will be a little bit older, but if the Panthers want to compete, then sometimes you have to take some minuses with those big pluses. 20, you got the Cowboys going Brandon Cisse, corner out of South Carolina. Defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach from the Eagles. So it definitely makes sense for them to at least be open to a corner. And Brandon Cisse has insane potential. Just that Texas A&M game is very scary. Go and watch it if you haven't already. It is a little bit petrifying because for a while, Cisse, until that game, was a top 10 player on my board just based on how he played during the season. But there was something up that game, and I just can't really get over it because I know NFL teams, when they're looking at him for the future, will be looking at that as well. 21, the Steelers go Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama. I know there's people saying, Will Howard. I like Will Howard. He was my QB3 last draft. I think Ty Simpson's better. I think it's possible that with the Steelers having the draft in Pittsburgh, not having a franchise quarterback on roster, they could take a late one flyer on someone that people thought was the consensus QB1 at midseason. And it's not a great track record with quarterbacks with limited sample size. However, again, you're at pick 21. It's hard to find really high quality quarterbacks at this late of the first round. It's not easy because if you know, unless you're sniping somebody, like if it's a guaranteed top end quarterback, they're going way higher than this. So, I mean, it just depends on where you think you're going to be in next year's draft, what you think of next year's draft, and then being able to evaluate from there. But I don't mind this one. I know a lot of people do mind it. We'll see how the rest of the draft fares out. 22, we got the Seahawks going Mansour, Delane Corner out of LSU. In my opinion, this is via trade up as well. So yeah, it requires a third round this year and a second and a third next. And the chart or the Seahawks end up basically moving back into the fourth. I think for the Seahawks, this is a great move because Mansour Delane to me is a top 5 player in the class. I love him to death. But at the same time, he should have gone way earlier. But I don't think there's any way that he gets to 22. 23, the Eagles go Caleb Lomu, tackle slash guard out of Utah. He doesn't play with a lot of physicality, but he is super high floor. Without Stoutland there, I think this would be a much smarter move if you're going offensive lineman to go after a safer option to kick into guard because left tackle, right tackle are secured for the short term. Lomu would end up kicking in, and to me is a top 20 player at guard. You might need that stability, especially with Stout on the way out. Well, actually, funnily enough, there you go. Low risk, high quality. Love it. 24, Browns go Max Ianachor, tackle out of Arizona State. I don't trust the development. I need to know the offensive line coach. I actually prefer Ianachor to go to a spot where I trust the offensive line coach. Surprisingly, I think Tennessee has the one that was formerly for the Raiders as well as the Giants. I would be much more into that. But Ianachor, he is still growing, very young, very developmental. Not off the table for the Browns, but again, you could just have been sitting here and looking at Monroe Freeling and then, or ended up getting Fano earlier and then ended up having Denzel Boston. I think that would have been a much better situation than trading up for Cardell Tate and getting the second round pick. 25, the Bears go Lee Hunter, defensive interior out of Texas Tech. I personally think this is a smart move. I know there's some good edge rushers on the board that I would prefer at this point, like TJ Parker, but Lee Hunter's right in the mix, and the Bears definitely can upgrade on the defensive interior side. Grady Jarrett's not going to remain, super consistent as he continues to age. Lee Hunter would be a good addition there. 26, the Bills go Casey Concepcion, wide receiver at Texas A&M. Bills need a weapon. Casey, as long as he gets rid of the drops, not very easier said than done, would end up being a fantastic option there for the Bills. 27, the Niners go Zion Young, edge out of Missouri. Dude's a freak show. I think after having some concerns with Brandon Ayuk's driving, DUI might be a little bit of something that people get worried about with Zion Young. However, we end up seeing that the Niners do need to go after an edge. I do think that with Monroe Freeling there, again, it's just something. I don't care if you're low on Monroe Freeling. End up looking at one of the offensive tackles here at this point. 28, the Texans go Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Tight end's not off the table for the Texans, and honestly, it's a good value, and it would help out CJ Stroud a lot. Granted, you have an elite receiving core as it is. It's just sometimes you just get younger, better, and you take the shot where you can. It does kind of feel almost like how Emeka Egbuka went to the Buccaneers last year when they didn't necessarily need it, but maybe over the horizon ends up I think they'll end up probably bringing Schultz on a 1-year deal. Will end up being something they try to have for the long haul. 29, the Rams go Monroe Freeling, tackle out of Georgia. So I guess it is something that at least was feasible earlier. I think personally they end up keeping McClendon as that right tackle starter, but Freeling would be great value here. Honestly, worth at least putting into the mix. 30, you got the Broncos going Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver at Indiana. I love this fit. I'm going to start doing it in my own mock drafts. Really high quality player who has great after the catch ability, had some insane clutch catches as well. Just a really solid foundation, unless he ends up being like 5'10", which I don't think he will be. He's going to be someone who deserves at least some late first consideration. 31, you got the Patriots going Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama. I mean, it's going to be literally the opposite of what you saw Will Campbell, who was a multi-year starter, shorter arms, smooth movement skills. And Caden Proctor is longer arms, not necessarily the best movement skills in the world, much rawer. It's the definition of, kind of like the exact opposite. So unfortunately, in life as well, when you end up having an issue, you end up trying like a lot of people overcompensate and go to the other polar opposite. Could end up being the case if they end up wanting to try Caden Proctor at right tackle. But if you want to tackle a right tackle that has long arms, Blake Miller would probably be a little more apt for the Patriots there at 31. 32, you got the Chargers going Avion Terrell, corner out of Clemson. This is via that trade back with Seattle. Great value there. Honestly, I don't mind this one at all. Defensive coordinator stayed within the Minter system, so it's going to be very similar. Incredible value here. Again, another reason why I don't think a team like the Rams needed to go after Jermon McCoy that early. You can end up going after Avion Terrell here in the back end of the first, perfectly fine. At number 33, we have the Jets going Denzel Boston starting out round 2. Incredible haul for the Jets, Bain, Boston, and Love. Again, I've done that with their second first-round pick. 34, the Cardinals go Chase Bazantes, guard out of Texas A&M. They're pretty much securing their right side. I mean, he is somebody that has a lot of potential with some of the high-end plays he's had. But 2024 tape, I was not sold. So I do want to see, maybe a little bit more. I need to dive a little bit deeper into the guard class, which I have not fully done yet. Or at least I haven't fully updated it yet, I should say, to be able to understand exactly what I feel about Chase. But I have him more as a round 3 guy. 35, we got the Titans going Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville, tearing his ACL in the game that I get to see him in person. Breaks my heart. But for the Titans, you get a true big X receiver here. And, David Bailey, Chris Bell, that is a good haul from rounds 1 and 2. 36, the Raiders go Sam Hesh, center out of Kansas State. This does not make sense to me. I mean, I do like Hesh in terms of his ability to play in Kubiak's zone blocking system. I like the fit. Just at 36 doesn't make any sense. You have a lot of money. I'd prefer to fill this with veteran talent and then focus on the defense based on the value of the players available. Think about TJ Parker at this point, and especially with your defensive coordinator having such high IQ when it comes to defensive linemen, especially the edge room, such a good track record there. I think that's just a way smarter move. 37, they got the Giants going guard Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. I mean, at this point, you're just going to be you're going to be guaranteeing at least Bo a shot at right tackle for the long haul. But Pregnon's BPA, I have him as a top 15 player in the class. 38, you got the Texans going Jennings Dunker, guard / center out of Iowa. Solid length arms. We'll see if the Senior Bowl's measurements are actually accurate. But, I'm not sold on Dunker. I don't like the tape itself. Ended up having some fun days there in Mobile, but again, what you put on tape versus what you do in Mobile, it's not something that totally rewrites everything that you've seen. To me, he's still a day 3 player. 39, you got the Cardinals going D'Angelo Velcro Pons, corner out of Indiana. It kind of feels like how they went after Max Melton a couple years ago, a little bit early. I don't think they need to go after this one right here. The Cardinals, I just don't really see. I actually don't mind the fit necessarily. Just at 39, you'd have to really believe in Velcro Pons. But yeah, to me, I know that the Rams ended up having some undersized corners there for a second, but I don't think D'Angelo Pons needs to be an early second round pick for them. 40, you got the Chiefs going Ted Hurst, wide receiver out of Georgia State. I mean, this was the free pick, by the way, so it is what it is. But I actually love this fit. If I'm not mistaken, I think I did this with Broshmo in our live mock draft post Senior Bowl, or else that was originally the pick, and I think live we ended up editing it to Akeem Mesidor. But great fit. I mean, I love the ability to threaten downfield. Good catch radius, great ability to change direction. It does feel like a player who will sneak into the second round. 41, the Bengals go Keontae Scott, defensive back out of Miami. I mean, doubling down on 2 low-value positions is maybe not the route I would go for the Bengals, but if you want to get into competitive mode right away, this is how you do it, is with Downs is a freak show, to me, best player in the class, but he's an instant impact. Keontae Scott's older. He's going to be 25 at the nickel spot, but at the same time, he is an instant every down threat. He's solid in coverage, really dangerous versus the run. I don't support it myself because I do think, maybe at this point an edge rusher would be more apt, but not going to mind it at all. Speaking of the edge rusher I would want for the Bengals, TJ Parker out of Clemson goes to the Saints at 42, which is great value. Again, for the Saints, I don't necessarily believe that their system would maximize TJ Parker. More of an outside linebacker system with TJ Parker at 260 plus. I prefer him to be in an even or a consistent even front. But 43 got the Dolphins going Keith Abney, the second corner out of Arizona State. I have Keith at number 23 on my board. I'll scroll down a little bit so you guys get a sneak peek at a little bit more. It just depends on his height. I think Arizona State, when he ended up coming out of high school, he was like 5'10". We'll see what happens in like a couple weeks. So excited about that. Keith Abney, incredible value here for a really solid corner. Like Abney and Lemon, both top 25 players on my board. 44, the Jets go Christian Miller, defensive interior out of Georgia. I still have him as a top 15 player. I love the upside that he brings, and the Jets again, and kind of killing this draft. Big fan of the haul that they've gotten overall. 45, you got the Baltimore Ravens going Grayson Halton, defensive interior out of Oklahoma. Undersized, not super consistent. He's kind of built to win at the Senior Bowl, but not really built to be fully translatable. That's just something, in my opinion. He's a day 3 player, and in my opinion, doesn't need to be a selection for the Baltimore Ravens in round 2. Instead, I would prefer to even, they went guard early. Looking at the players available, I would definitely be looking at an edge for them. I like Malachi Lawrence. I think based off of what he's going to do at the combine, he'll end up being considered a day 2 talent, maybe as high as a round 2. But like on top of that, you can end up even looking maybe on the edge core. There's good players that you can end up considering in this range, like R. Mason Thomas, for example, same team, but would have been a little bit more apt for the situation. 46, the Buccaneers go CJ Allen, linebacker to Georgia. Honestly, another move the Ravens could have went after. I'm a bit higher on CJ Allen than maybe I initially ended up feeling. To me, he is still a pretty heavy run thumper. Ended up having some good, some skills in zone, but in my opinion, I don't think he's a great athlete consistently. And you'll see there's some sideline to sideline stuff, and the camera is super zoomed in, so it looks like he's zooming around. But then there's like another angle where you'll see he just doesn't cover ground necessarily as well as what people think. And he is very much a highlight reel linebacker. I don't think on a down-to-down basis he is as good as what the consensus believes. But CJ Allen is still someone who is well within my day 2 range. I was a bit lower on him, but it is definitely going to be more the Anthony Hill vibes that I'm a little bit worried about. The Buccaneers walking away with CJ Allen and Peter Woods, though, is something I fully support. 47, the Colts go Blake Miller, tackle out of Clemson. I don't think that's like necessarily a bad idea to try to go after offensive line, but I definitely know for a fact that the Colts are looking at edge rusher as well. So insert the players I was mentioning before. 48, they got the Falcons going Traden Stukes, defensive back out of Arizona. I don't think he can play the boundary. He played pretty much nickel and safety, but great ball skills. Also much older, if I'm not mistaken. He's a 6th-year senior. Don't understand why the Falcons specifically, with new coaching staff and everything, would want to invest in a win-now move when they're still trying to retool the roster to be able to win. 49, you got the Vikings going Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, defensive back out of Toledo. I personally had a conversation with a Minnesota Vikings scout about Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. They talked to me and said they didn't like him. I don't buy that for a second. Definitely seemed like they were trying to fish to see what our opinion was as well. Could end up being the first round selection for them. Big fan of that fit there for the Vikings. 50, you got the Steelers going Colton Hood, corner out of Tennessee. We apparently traded up 3 spots and moved back from 99 to 155. With the amount of picks we have, I fully support this. Colton Hood ended up having a little bit more of a down Senior Bowl week than what you'd want, but the value at 50 is impeccable. I think that's a fantastic move for a young player. 51, the Panthers go Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri. Really good downhill, fluid, young. The Panthers need a linebacker. I support this move. 52, you got the Packers going Malik Muhammad, corner out of Texas. I mean, he has some good tools in terms of the physical traits, 6 foot, 32-inch arms, but he did not earn the right to be a round 2, or especially even a day 2 player, let alone round 2. I think it's a good fit with the Packers, but someone that you should be putting a little bit down the board with Gannon, new defensive coordinator in there. I'd prefer from like a corner who is a little bit more talented, which is like Dave Snake Benosin, in my opinion. 53, you got the Lions going AJ Halsey, defensive back at LSU. I mean, I get it. Like, you're trying to say, hey, with you can't play it safe at safety if you do have your top 2 coming back from significant injury. But this is a second round pick, right? These players have 4 to 5 year contracts, depending on if it's a first or a second round pick. Like, this is a 4 year contract right here. You go to free agency to not play it safe, right? And AJ Halsey is not an incredible value. If we saw Emmanuel McNeil Warren here, I would say, okay, you know what? Like, he's somebody who's a top 30 player on my board. This is just too good to pass up. That's where I make sense of it. AJ Halsey does not have a really, really good athletic profile. He's much bigger. And so that's not a bad thing. Just at 53 for this fit, it's a short-term fill with a longer-term contract with a lower ceiling player. 54, the Eagles go Chris Johnson, corner out of San Diego State. I personally love this one. If Vic ends up staying there for the long haul, because it does seem like there's a lot of internal turmoil, knock on wood, it's the case. Chris Johnson's great. Super high zone IQ. And again, somebody who I still have at 25 on my board. Could end up being someone who I dropped out of the top 30, but in that range, late first, I still think Chris Johnson in a zone system is fantastic. 55, the Chargers go Keelan Rutledge, guard out of Georgia Tech. I'm perfectly fine with this. He is an absolute mauler and an absolute savage. Apparently, coaches kept trying to tell Keelan to turn down the intensity at the Senior Bowl, and the Chargers need interior offensive line help. 56, you got the Jaguars going Devin Moore, corner out of Florida. Doesn't make sense. He's somebody who has a ton of talent, but really banged up. We haven't seen enough of him, in my opinion, to justify this at all. 57, friend of the show, Malachi Lawrence, edge out of UCF, goes to the Chicago Bears. And, big fan of Malachi. Again, he's my number 8 player in the class. I know him on a personal level. It is not bias that puts him up at number 8. I just personally believe in the talent he has. I have some inside information that I'm not able to talk about, but I will say this. One of my issues with him was against a run. Sometimes I would see him shed the wrong way. And when I was we grabbed dinner. We ended up grabbing a one-on-one barbecue session, which I needed to go to Hutchins. I'm a Texas resident. I needed to do it anyways, but ended up introducing Malachi to Dallas barbecue. We ended up talking about it, and it's actually a play they have called fisting. First off, UCF, please change the name of that. But he has to, whether he wants to or not, shed to the inside, even if the run is to the outside, because it's designed for the linebacker to be able to take the edge on the outside. So it was something where I ended up just boosting his IQ grade a little bit, boosted the run game just a little bit, but that ended up netting him going from, being a top 15 player sitting here at the 78.25 range back into the 80.75 range. And again, I know him on a personal level, the best character I've ever had in terms of these prospects. So a really, really good guy. Honestly, I have a ton of respect for him. And I think he'd be a great fit there with the Bears. I know Dennis Allen likes above 260, but he plays at 255. That's not really a big issue to me. 58, the Niners go Elijah Surratt, wide receiver out of Indiana. Consistent. The Niners need some form of consistency. And then again, Juwan Jennings' role, I think Elijah Surratt would be a good fit. 59, the Texans go Mike Washington, running back out of Arkansas. Love the fit. Way too early, in my opinion. Dude flies, has a crazy frame, and good personality as well in my short conversation with him. 60, you got the Bills going Darrell Jackson, defensive interior out of Florida State. I know that Leonard's system might require a little bit more of a space eater, but I do think that Darrell Jackson doesn't necessarily bring much beyond that. And there's a lot of really good veterans that have good size. I'd prefer to invest in the second round in that realm. 61, you got the Rams going Dylan Thiedemann, defensive back out of Oregon. Incredible value. I don't really know if he'd play the Cam Curl role as well as maybe some others, but I honestly don't care. It's best player available, and he's going to be well worth it. 62, you got the Broncos going Justin Jolie, tight end out of NC State. Someone who I was a big fan of coming into the year, ended up gaining some extra weight, and still really, really fun player to watch. Honestly, I'm perfectly fine with him here in the late second. I'd prefer him in the third, but again, that's a little bit nitpicky. 63, the Patriots go Cassius Howell, edge out of Texas A&M. It is these short arms that could push him this far. People are going to say it's completely unrealistic. Had really good production this year, over 10 sacks, but at the same time, again, his arms are supposedly, because again, some arms were longer on the note sheet than what we expected, and apparently NFL teams send their worst scouts to do these measurements. But Cassius Howell ended up having sub 31-inch arms at like 30.625. That's really bad. Like sub 33 is already bad enough, but then it's like sub 32, it's like bad on bad, sub 31, bad on bad on bad. Like you have to be a true exception to be worth able to impact on an every down basis at that size. And he's sub 250. So unlike Ruben Bain, that's a big issue. 64, the Eagles go Emmett Johnson, running back out of Nebraska, excuse me. But ah, Emmett's a fun player. I don't hate this for the Seahawks. I know that Fleury's the new offensive coordinator. I don't really think Emmett Johnson is like a non-home run hitting one cut back is necessarily going to be a bad fit. But there's just I don't think you need to invest in this style of running back. If you're going to want to spend this type of capital on this type of running back, honestly, just re-sign K9. I don't see the value there. Technically, Trinidad ended up getting his he ended up being going back to school. So just FYI. But let's just say the Browns take another quarterback here at number 65, and it just doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, I get this is like a free pick. Even if Trinidad was part of this class, doesn't make sense to me. Like, these never really work out in the first place. And next year, you know what you want. Go after what you want. Number 66, the Titans go Davison Igbinosun, corner out of Ohio State. Love Igbinosun here. He feels a lot like Azareye'h Thomas and Renardo Green. Like, he feels like a Florida State corner, but he just went to Ohio State. And so I like that in terms of the Sala vision, even though Azareye'h Thomas went to Aaron Glenn, Renardo Green ended up going to Sala. But I like the Renardo Green aspect that Davison Igbinosun can provide. 67, the Raiders go Gabe Atkins, edge out of Illinois. Big fan of this one. Really good pass rusher. Still developing as an edge or as a run defender, in my opinion. But really unique frame for someone who's more of a pass rusher. And again, with the new defensive coordinator in place, I personally would swing for the fences on the edge rushers. 68, you got the Eagles going Oscar Delp, tight end out of Georgia. Primarily just a receiving tight end. I know that, I think Goddard's back. There's just not going to be enough interest outside of that. But, they're going to bring Dallas most likely back for a year. Delp would be a solid tight end 2/3, but I don't see him having the skill set necessary for the Eagles to maximize him as a potential one in the future. I just want a better blocker, in my opinion. But I love the ceiling. It's just, I would say day 3 would make more sense. 69, the Texans go Anthony Hill, linebacker of Texas. I'm much lower on Anthony Hill, but I think this is a great fit. I'd feel a lot more confident about his success chances here. So I think this is a solid selection for the Texans. 7, you got the Cardinals going Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. Value's impeccable there. Obviously, I think of him more as a round 2 guy. Sometimes you just got to take best player available. 71, the Commanders go with Skylar Bell, wide receiver out of UConn. Arvell Reese and Skylar Bell are a nice 1-2 punch for day 2. Skylar Bell, good character, really good player after the catch, and a very good route runner. 72, we had the Cincinnati Bengals going Chris McClellan, defensive interior out of Missouri. I like that we're starting to go into the defensive line, but Chris McClellan didn't really move me in terms of tape. But he is definitely a unique player. Day 3, don't mind. But day 2, you definitely need to, double down in terms of what you want to do for the defensive line. And edge, in my opinion, is a lot bigger of a priority. 73, Saints go Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. He's definitely someone who's a little more gimmicky. I'm glad that the hype for him kind of cooled off. I haven't never been fully sold on Jacoby Lane, but the Saints, this is a good location for him to not need to be the true one, but have the ability to be if he develops into that. So I like the fact that his roles not really overlap with many other players. And so it's at least a good shot. 74, get the Chiefs going Katron Allen, running back out of Penn State. He has the physicality that Pacheco could. I just don't really love the speed that Katron Allen brings on a down-to-down basis. It is the 3rd round, so, again, the fact that we're taking a running back here when we ended up going Caleb Banks before and looking at the defensive interiors now, I mean, yeah, there's not really good ones, but in round 2, rather than Ted Hurst, could end up going after, Christian Miller, I think was pick 44. Like, Christian Miller, Jeremiah Love, and at this point, like a Chris Brazzell. You understand that I think there's just a combination of the 3 positions that's just a lot better, and I'm not a big Chris Brazzell guy, so there you can insert another burner. 75, you got the Dolphins going Derek Moore, edge out of Michigan. Incredible value. He's gonna go in the second round, if not the first. 34-inch arms, ended up dominating at the Senior Bowl, an elite pass rusher. He's been a top 50 guy for me this whole season. 76, the Steelers go Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver out of Alabama. I really do like the fact that especially, I mean, I don't know why it's not mentioned in here, but taking quarterback Ty Simpson in the first, and then you get Jeremy Bernard here in the second, or excuse me, in the third, you have that chemistry as well. 77, the Buccaneers go R. Mason Thomas, someone who I mentioned literally the pick before their second round selection to the, I believe the Ravens. This is a great move, great fit. Big fan of it. Nasty, nasty edge rusher, smaller frame, exactly the role that they'd be trying to fill with Hassan Reddick's vacancy. 78, the Colts go big citrus, Dom Orange out of Iowa State. I don't think that, again, they're going to be looking. Big Citrus is a day 3 player. I mean, he's just he's a name at this point. He had a much better 2024 than 2025, in my opinion. But, it's just, this is a day 3 player. It just is. I don't like the idea that we're trying to plan for 2027 when you need to be able to re-gear for 2026. 79, the Falcons go Kevin Coleman, wide receiver out of Missouri. Nasty separator, but I mean, Kevin Coleman honestly is a good person too. He seemed like a really genuine guy when even in my very minor interaction with him. But, he is somebody who's a good burner. Honestly, I don't mind it for the Falcons. I was going to try to criticize it, but at 80, being able to take someone who could separate in one-on-one coverage versus even some of the bigger, more physical corners could end up being a really net positive. 80, the Ravens go Joshua Josephs, edge out of Tennessee. Really good length, good build in terms of, like, again, the length and the speed profile. I've never really been sold on Josephs, and I've always wanted to be. I had number 2 overall until the personality concerns came into question. Oh, what a horrible timing. But James Pierce, James Pierce, I was sold on 1,000 times more, and both of them were on the same field. But Joseph's still a good player. I just would prefer him on day 3. 81, you got the Jags going Genesis Smith, defensive back out of Arizona. Safety's in need. A really good build. Needs to go and fix the tackling. So, good value there at 81. I'd personally support that. But I do think the Jags are going to, they value the players like Johnson in that safety core that maybe more than what we do. So maybe they'll end up going elsewhere, but I still think the pick itself is a good idea. 82, the Vikings go center Connor Lew out of Auburn. This is one that I do in the second round. Honestly, if you told me the first round pick was, defensive back McNeil Warren, second pick Connor Lew, I'd still be in support of that overall haul. The fact that it was rounds 2 and 3 should tell you what I think. 83, the Panthers go Lewis Moore, defensive back out of Indiana. I think he's 26 years old. So I just don't really see this as a move for the Panthers. Honestly, you have some really good defensive backs there that are very underrated. Like, it's not something where I would say Lewis Moore is not going to be an upgrade, but for the 26-year-old aspect, I'd much rather try to develop than go after someone again that is solely win now. The Panthers aren't that good. I hate to say it. You're not that good. So I would not do that myself. 84, the Packers go Brian Parker, offensive lineman out of Duke. Apparently going to play center position. Packers historically do go after tackles that are pretty much guard/center hybrids as well. I don't mind this one. Good value for a good player. I would just prefer it maybe a little bit later because I didn't think he was all that inspiring at the Shrine Bowl. Still think, though, that it fits the overall look. 85, the Steelers go Kamari Ramsey, defensive back out of USC. I'm not a fan of us going after a nickel backer here. That's just not my preference. However, Kamari Ramsey is a good player who has really solid tape in 2024. Again, that's what I'm going off of. I think of him as a pure day 3 player in terms of what he's produced recently. 86, you got the Chargers go Fabechi Nwaiwu, center out of Oklahoma. Really good, honestly, at the Shrine Bowl. Caught my eye before I ever watched him, and still haven't watched him. I'm just going to be completely transparent, and I don't think that, I don't think anybody's really watched every single player. I've been able to have my eyes at least on Fabici, and he did a really good job there in the Shrine Bowl. He did pass the eye test. I don't mind the idea of him being a surprise 3rd round pick. Again, that's not my grade, but I don't have an official grade. Eye test wise, he at least passed it. So it's better than some of the players that even have gone before. Dolphins go Isaiah World, offensive lineman out of Oregon. You're going to be taking a big chance on Isaiah World. I think of him solely as a day 3 player. He did not end up playing at the Senior Bowl. To me, that's a big mistake. If he did, this would make sense. If not, since he did not, I'm not a fan of it. 88, the Jaguars go Jadarian Price, running back out of Notre Dame. Honestly, if he's here, why not? I don't even give a shit if ETN's there. Jadarian Price is a perfect redundancy back, and this team knows how to maximize running back value. I don't mind it for the Jags. 89, the Bears go Demetrius Crown over tackle at Texas A&M. Freak build. You just have to, like, I mean, I guess you'd be then in the short term kicking. I don't think you would put Crown over to left tackle while you end up seeing why am I forgetting? Trapilo heel from that patellar tendon tear. I mean, he is a weird, unique player, and I guess this would be a unique like situation. But yeah, Darnell Wright at left tackle, maybe you can convince me, but a little bit too developmental for what the Bears need. 90, you got the Dolphins going Dallin Bentley, tight end out of Utah. Literally did not really produce at all until this year, and ended up going off this year. Really, really smooth player. Again, kind of popped at the Shrine Bowl, so definitely someone that ended up passing the eye test. Not a bad move for the Dolphins. Again, just not a round 3 player for me. 91, the Bills go Jalen Kilgore, defensive back out of South Carolina. Doesn't really fit. Like, he's a slot safety. Like, it's just, he's a weird, unique build. They did end up going to South Carolina last year on day 2 for defensive interior. So maybe they'll end up going back because they like that defensive system. Not off the table, but definitely something that I'm not over the moon for. 92, the Niners go Chris Brazzell, wide receiver out of Tennessee. I'm not fully sold on Brazzell. I did see something recently because I have a big issue with how he takes some reps off, but he ended up addressing that, saying that their system, they literally are forced to take reps off. That is a big deal to me. Like, I really do care about receivers putting in effort when they run routes, because I've seen a lot of players that, the biggest one was Jermaine Burton. Even with the off-field stuff, if you end up negating all of that, like, the effort he put on the field was a big issue to me, and I was out on him because of that. With this, I mean, I'm a little bit more bought in on Chris Brazzell. I still think of him a little bit more as a weird gadget guy, but good movement skills for 6'5", good route running, better release package than, a standard receiver. I think a little overrated, but 92, great move for the Niners. 93, Rams go Brennan Thompson, burner out of Mississippi State. I don't mind this. He's a track star, so it's just a way to basically run clear routes, and Stafford has the arm to reach said player, so it is always a good threat to have in your back pocket. 94, the Broncos go LT Overton, defensive lineman of Alabama. Perfect for John Franklin Myers' replacement. Even though I think of him as a potential edge rusher, I think it's a good move for the Broncos. 95, the Patriots go Max Clare, tight end out of Ohio State. Good value there. To me, he is still like a tight end 2/3 of the class. Just good fluid route runner. 95 for the Patriots. I personally support this one big time. 96, you got the Chargers going Jake Golday, linebacker out of Cincinnati. A true round 2. Well, I think he's like just outside of round 2 now. Like a round 3 player. Great value there for the Chargers as they continue retooling that defense, as maybe some players who are more tenured will end up going to Baltimore. 97, the Vikings go Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson. Really good receiver that doesn't really have a ton of problems from what I've seen. I definitely like the idea of him being a wide receiver 3 and a potential backup, a cuff for Jordan Addison. Number 98, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going Failili Fa'amo. I actually like his upside as a tackle. Again, I'm just not comfortable without Stout there. Failili has taken developmental steps, so I do think this is a safer move. At 98, I would not shame this pick at all. I just don't think of him as a guard. 99, you got the Lions going Matt Golban, the center out of Michigan State. He is just consensus a big my guy for most people. And once I get to the interior offensive line class, this is a name that I have highlighted and red starred. So he is probably the first guy I will watch. But the Lions getting a high tier center, especially in state, makes a lot of sense. It's a good move. 100, the Jaguars go Zachariah Branch, wide receiver out of Georgia. Surprising he fell this far, but at the same time, things do happen in the draft. Really good return threat. I don't think he'll end up getting outside the top 70. Round 4, Titans go Jonah Coleman, running back out of Washington. Good to invest in the running back room. I would prefer someone who's a little bit more of a burner, maybe like Devon Claiborne. 102, the Vegas Raiders go Julian Neal, corner out of Arkansas. Could be the range where he goes. Really good physical boundary corner. I'd like the value there. 103, the Jets, go Cole Payton, quarterback out of North Dakota State. Really early, in my opinion, for Cole Payton. Don't like the throw motion, but still a fun player to watch and, solid player there during the Senior Bowl. Very, very early. Don't see the upside there. I'd prefer to go after a Klubnik or an Aller at that point. Or even you got Taylor Green is another one who goes at 104 to the Cardinals. I think that's a great move. And honestly, the upside of Taylor Green, even as a potential tight end, don't mind that either. So good move there for the Cardinals at 104. 105, the Giants go Parker Brailsford, center out of Alabama. Really good player nonetheless in terms of the track record. Hasn't been fully healthy, and the Giants end up sniping themselves. Someone who, in my opinion, if healthy, could have ended up being and a little more consistent. Could have ended up being a much better prospect. The running game this year was not on the offensive line. The running backs did a shitty job for Alabama as well. I think Parker Brailsford's going to be a steal. 106, the Texans go Drew Shelton, offensive lineman at Penn State. I was probably the first this year, and again, being the first doesn't really mean jack shit. But I was one of the first to say Drew Shelton's a guard. I didn't believe in him as a tackle. He's clearly a guard. This is a good move for the Texans, though. I think of him as a potential like fringe day 3, day 2 guard. So good value there for the Texans. 107, the Browns go Caleb Tiernan, the offensive lineman out of Northwestern. I have him as a top 50 player. I love him to death. He did have a really bad end of the year. Derek Moore exposed him. Gabe Akis exposed him. I do think there's more questions of him being a guard at this point. And at 107, the track record is well worth the investment. 108, the Broncos go Terrain York, linebacker at Texas A&M. I think he's like 5'10 or 5'11. He's not going to be a super plus athlete. He's one of the lower graded linebackers that I have. I think he's overrated as all get out. But, at 108, this is day 3. I'd prefer it like probably late day 3 than here. 109, the Chiefs go Michael Trigg, tight end out of Baylor. Make some free catches, great after the catch. Incredible value there at 109. 110, the Bengals go Charles Demings, corner out of Stephen F. Austin. Noah's agent, shout out to my guy, Kenny. Kenny's a great guy. But, Cincinnati Bengals can get boundary corner help. I love the way their secondary was retooled. Charles Demings is well worth the top 100 pick. 111, the Dolphins go Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of LSU. I mean, it is kind of like the same type of I like the fit. I honestly do. But I would prefer, come to think of it, I'd want a little more mobility. I honestly would go after Cade Klubnik over Garrett Nussmeier. But Nussmeier ended up having some real flashes. I think he ended up securing himself in this range. It's not off the table. 112, the Cowboys go deny Dennis Sutton, edge out of Penn State. He did not look good at all at the Senior Bowl, man, if I'm just going to be so honest. I thought of him more as I've always had him as day 3. I always wanted to have him higher, but he's always been early day 3. After that, I think he's securedly day 3, and this is a good situation for him to go to. It's a good fit there for the Cowboys. 113, the Colts go Kendall Daniels, a linebacker to Oklahoma. I have not watched him. I'm just going to be completely honest. There's a lot of other linebackers I really like, and I like the idea of the Colts going after a linebacker, but Kendall Daniels is not one that I've seen any tape on. 114, the Falcons go Devin Eastern, defensive interior out of Minnesota. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think Devin Eastern is at least in this range. I think he's a flashy player for college, but he never stood out to me as somebody who should be at least taking the top 150. 115, the Baltimore Ravens go Eli Raridan, tight end out of Notre Dame. He is a top 64 player for me. I really like the way he blocks. He's a smooth mover. He did randomly come in 13 pounds lighter than I think 16 pounds lighter than what he was listed. Not a fan of that, but great separator, good blocker, great value at 115. 116, the Buccaneers go non-combine invite Kalen Black, running back out of Indiana. Honestly, I really love Kalen Black being a handcuff there for Bucky. I don't think their skill set is too far off, even though Kalen Black's a little bit more of a heavier back. I love Kalen Black, so I'm going to have him somebody I would be willing to take in day 2. 117, the Jaguars go Landon Robinson, defensive interior out of Navy. Dude's a space eater, and he has some real highlight reps. I like the idea of taking an upside player for the Jags there at 117. 118, the Lions go Jude Bowery, tackle of Boston College. There's no way in hell after the Senior Bowl you can take Jude Bowery in this draft. He's literally the one reason why there was I think 2 or 3 sacks in one drive. It's an embarrassing showcase, but yeah, definitely not someone who I would recommend drafting, let alone in the top 120. 119, the Panthers go Eli Stowers, tight end out of Vanderbilt. Good short range weapon, honestly, impeccable value. This is where, in my opinion, based on age and usability, Eli Sowers should go, but might end up going earlier because he is a very dynamic player in the right system. 120, the Packers go Tristan Lee, offensive lineman out of Clemson. Definitely going to be more of a guard. Love his tenacity. Again, kind of a Green Bay Packers tackle guard hybrid, but um, I feel like you can only go for so many of them before you're just overloading the depth of your roster when you need some starters. Steelers at 121 go Bo Stevens, guard out of Iowa. Had some good wins, had some very embarrassing losses. Definitely a developmental player, and I don't really want to play the development game. At the same time, it's a fourth round. I don't necessarily mind going after a high floor school like Iowa to get my interior offensive lineman depth from. 122, the Eagles go Anthony Lucas, edge out of USC. I'm not a big Anthony Lucas guy. I think of him definitely more as like a UDFA / late day 3 range. And for the Eagles, I want someone to be a little more of an outside linebacker. 123, you got the Seahawks going Cage Casey, guard out of Boise State. I love this move for the Seahawks. Really good mobility. Honestly, wouldn't mind him if the Raiders had a pick in this range for him to be a depth player for a Kubiak system with an upside there. But good pickup there for the Seahawks. 124, the Vegas Raiders go Tyron Montgomery, wide receiver out of John Carroll. Flag football player for the U.S. team, if I'm not mistaken. So he's an Olympian in that regard. A really smooth mover. I like the idea of trying to utilize this guy in open space. I don't know if he'll be, based on how he played on days 2 and 3, a little bit more in this range. I think he'll be outside the top 150, but if a team wants to take a shot, they want to take a shot. 125, Patriots go Bud Clark, defensive back out of TCU. Part of me just thinks this is a match made in heaven. Bud Clark will always take advantage of poor throws, and he's a good defensive back to have in terms of depth. 126, the Bills go Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Alabama. If the weight ends up stabilizing, I like the overall tape. It just seems that he is kind of maxed out at a lower weight with not great athleticism. 127, the Niners go Austin Barber, tackle / guard out of Florida. If you're going to wait on offensive line, I think this is actually a good player to wait for. He'll end up being a kick-ass guard for you in the short run, and he still can eventually develop into an offensive tackle. I would just take him more as a guard. 128, the Texans go Zane Durant, defensive interior out of Penn State. He's on the lighter side, but still a very powerful player who picks up speed. I don't mind this. Again, worth the physical upside there at 128. 129, the Bears go Zaki Wheatley, defensive back out of Penn State. I've been willing to go with this in the second round for the Bears, so I'm going to be perfectly fine with them going after a high-quality safety out of Penn State in round 4. 130, the Broncos go Kyle Lewis, nickel linebacker out of Pitt. He is an awesome player. He is sitting at number 38 on my board. So massive fan of Kyle Lewis. I think it's worth the risk. 131, New England Patriots go Hezekiah Masses, cornerback out of Cal. He had some really productive games this year. Still actually looked the part at the Senior Bowl as well. I'm a fan of taking a shot on him at 131. 132, the Saints go Will Lee, corner out of Texas A&M. He definitely someone who will have good measurables, longer arms. I just haven't been a huge Will Lee guy, if I'm being completely frank. 133, the Niners go Seth McGowan, running back of Kentucky. I just don't see this being possible. I don't think he'll ever get drafted. Just somebody who has a really big fumble red flag. Like, he's fumbled a lot. And definitely someone who fumbled during the Senior Bowl week. So I just don't see it. But talent-wise, if he didn't have that, it would be a good fit with the Niners, maybe as a UDFA. 134, we have the Vegas Raiders going Tyler Onyedim, defensive interior at Texas A&M. Looked a lot better this year than last year at Iowa State. Ended up looking good in one-on-ones. Could be someone, if you can sneakily develop him, ends up being a very big comeback story from how ass he was at Iowa State. 135, Steelers go Nick Barrett, defensive interior of South Carolina. Had some very flashy pass rushes for himself at the Senior Bowl, but I don't think we need to focus on a pass rushing defensive interior at the moment. I'd prefer to get more of a bulky nose and then allow Keanu Benton to take over for where Cam Hayward will end up leaving. 136, the Saints go Devon Claiborne, running back out of Wake Forest. If you're going to wait, this is the player to wait for. Great fit there in New Orleans for the home run hitter. 137, the Eagles go Michael Taoff, safety out of Texas. Really good value. He is a high floor backup safety. Honestly, someone you can start in a pinch, and he has that system that system comfortability there with your second round pick from last year. 138, the Niners go Logan Jones, center out of Iowa. So good movement on the interior with both Logan Jones as well as Austin Barber from earlier. I think that's a very solid move for the Niners. Very high floor option and good depth at the very minimum. Browns at 139 go Harold Perkins, linebacker out of LSU. I just recently graded Perkins. You have to utilize him very uniquely. And without Schwartz there for this year, I'm not a fan of them maximizing that. But in round 5, it's hard to pass up the opportunity. At 140, the Titans go Chandler Rivers, defensive back out of Duke. Again, player who has super high IQ. I think that he's, again, you can tell that this player should be on a 53 at the very minimum. I don't know if he'll get some starting reps there, but the Titans could use someone who's high IQ like Chandler Rivers. 141, the Cardinals go Lewis Bond, wide receiver out of Boston College. He ended up actually he ended up looking pretty damn solid. I believe he was at the Senior Bowl. I went to both back to back. Forgive me if 140 picks in, my mind might cross the two. But, Bond ended up actually having some really solid routes and some one-on-ones. I just don't really think he'll get drafted. He's someone who, in my opinion, I would take a shot on a UDFA. 142, the Titans go Nick Borkacher, tight end out of Texas A&M. I don't think he got a combine invite either, but solid blocking tight end. Sometimes you can take that shot in 142. I think that's fine. Round 5, not going to mind that, especially when you can pair him up with Helm. 143, you got the Giants going Caleb Elam's-Orr, linebacker at TCU. Love the straight line speed of Elam's-Orr. Ended up grading him very recently, and it's just it's more show than tell with Elam's-Orr in terms of zone coverage, but he's dominant in terms of what's everything that's in front of him. So again, I've said this a billion times. There is a lot of upside with these players in this class. It's not as bad as people think. It's just, again, that round 3 range is where you start saying, well, a lot of these guys could be round 4. But right here in the round 5 range, we're starting to re-hit a group of really solid players. 144, the Browns go Jalen Husky, defensive back out of Maryland. I didn't see enough of him to have an honest opinion, but safety for the Browns, depth here at 144, don't mind it. 145, the Commanders go VJ Payne, defensive back out of Kansas State. He actually had some nice moves or some nice reps there at the Senior Bowl. I could end up seeing him being a surprise player to hit to make a 53 at 145. 146, the Chiefs go Thaddeus Dixon, corner out of South Carolina. Freaking amazing fit. Overly physical. To me, he is a poor man's Jermod McCoy. And this is great value for him. An amazing fit. 147, the Browns go Carver Willis, offensive lineman out of Washington. He got absolutely decimated a couple times during the Senior Bowl. I don't think he gets drafted. But again, I like the theme of the Browns investing heavily in the offensive line. 148, the Saints go Josh Cuevas, tight end of Alabama. He's a smooth mover, someone who I've been a big fan of for the entire year. I like the idea of just getting more and more firepower at the tight end position for the Saints. 149, the Dolphins go Malachi Fields, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. No way he falls here. I don't think he gets to pick 49 based if he ends up running above a 4.5. Then I don't think he gets there. If he runs 4.55, I think he just gets at the back end of the second. But really good build, great tracking, amazing length. He can handle. He's a physical player, good blocker. Again, round 2 for the Dolphins, I'd be a supporter of it. 150, the Cowboys go Keegan Toss to right tackle to Missouri. A really good investment here. Right tackle is wide open for the taking, and Keegan Toss could end up being a very early contributor. I don't know if he's a super long-term guy, but again, at 150, you could be getting somebody that's even better than a Johnny Cornelius, who I thought more of as a guard. 151, you got the Eagles going Josh Cameron, wide receiver out of Baylor. Good build. Honestly, nice redundancy there for A.J. Brown. And the value there at 151, he is hard to handle if you're not on your game as a corner. 152, the Ravens go Preston Hodge, defensive back out of Colorado. I'm still sold on Preston Hodge. I think a good defensive coordinator could utilize him properly, and this is a good defensive head coach there and mentor, so I'm a supporter of that one. 153, you got the Buccaneers going Sam Roche, tight end out of Stanford. I have people who know Sam on a personal level. They all rave about him. I like the idea of the Buccaneers investing in tight end room, especially with a player who has an A-plus personality like him. 154, the Colts go Bryce Lance, wide receiver at North Dakota State. He can threaten downfield. He's not like a speedy player, but good X build with contested catch capabilities. If you do miss out on Alec Pierce, which I don't think you will, I think you'll bring him back. He will end up at least having some of those contested catches that you were hoping for. 155, the Steelers go Romello Height, edge out of Texas Tech. He did not look good at the Senior Bowl. Should not have went to the Senior Bowl, but I think this is a range where he ends up going, and this is a great fit with the Steelers. I think this would be a net positive move for both parties. 156, the Vikings go Devin Marshall, corner out of NC State. To me, Devin's a round 2 player, definitely. He's definitely more into the zone capabilities with the overall press. Like, I think of him more as a press zone, but undersized corners have worked well with Brian Flores. This is a good situation for Devin to maximize his talent. 157, the Panthers go Cyrus Allen, wide receiver of Cincinnati. He's a top 100 player for me. Burner, undersized, but good ball tracking, good route running, great receiver there. Cincinnati actually had a really good group of receivers. 158, the Packers go Dante Godfather Corleone, defense interior at Cincinnati. Most people I've heard just actually don't like Dante on a personal level. I'm going to be honest, I don't have anything to back that up. Like, he ended up not wanting to talk with media. I respect it. But like, just the overall consensus from, at least the way the players were talking to each other. And again, this is not breaking news or anything. This is just, I took a breadcrumb and I'm trying to at least say what the breadcrumb looks like. It did not seem like it was like an overly positive opinion of Dante, and ended up being hurt at the Shrine Bowl as well. At 158 though, worth the risk. He is kind of a bowling ball build and had some good dominant plays. 159, the Steelers go Aaron Anderson, wide receiver at LSU. What's funny is he's dominant when he's actually engaged with with corners and stuff. He ends up dropping balls versus air. It's a weird thing. But if you're going up against players and you're doing well against players, I'm going to support you in a game that requires you to play against players. Pony up. Baltimore Ravens at 160 go Jordan Hudson, wide receiver at SMU. I think he's a top 15 receiver for that franchise guy. So shout out to Marcus. But Baltimore going after an SMU receiver, I'm a fan of it. Jordan Hudson, in my opinion, is well worth a top 150 selection. He was the main reason why SMU had some actual legit ability in the receiving core. Very underrated player. 161, the Panthers go Tackett Davis, corner out of Washington. I think of him more as a safety. Obviously did not have the ability to go to the Senior Bowl. In my opinion, that hurts his stock a lot. Worth the investment at 161, though. Like, really unique and highly productive 2024 season. 2023 season. Damn. 162, Jaguars go Delby Lemieux, the guard out of Dartmouth. Crazy athlete, does again feel very in tune with what I would expect from the Jaguars. A little bit early, but some players get taken a little early because they don't want other teams to have the chance. 163, the Bears go Lander Barton, linebacker at Utah. High floor player, nothing too crazy, but honestly, for the Bears at 163, getting some linebacker depth is a smart idea. I love how this is turning out for the Jaguars here. Nadame Tucker, edge out of Western Michigan, goes at 164. So, yeah, I mean, the Jaguars could use some extra edge help, and Nadame is a really solid developmental edge to have. 165, the Texans go Vinny Anthony, the second wide receiver out of Wisconsin. He was one of my guys coming into the year. Again, that was like still a top 30 receiver, but Vinny Anthony is very good in one-on-ones. I don't think he has an opportunity to do jack shit for the Texans, but good value. 166, the Bills go Vincent Anthony Jr., edge out of Duke. Vincent Anthony is a productive edge rusher. I prefer Wesley Williams, but for this system, for the Leonard system, he is actually a good outside linebacker edge rusher. 167, the Rams go Jack Endries, tight end out of Texas. Probably goes earlier than this, but kind of feels very, very similar to Helm last year. And the Rams do like to have a lot of tight ends. Not off the table. 168, the Broncos go Adam Randall, running back into Clemson. Did have some fumble concerns during the Senior Bowl week, but, freak top speed at a great size. This is a range where you can take a shot on someone like that. 169, such a good fit, by the way. New England Patriots go Aiden Fisher, linebacker at Indiana. I have him as a solid day 2 grade. I bumped him down just a hair, and it was very, very close for him being like my linebacker 4, or I think my linebacker 5. So he's going to be my linebacker 7, spoiler alert. I'm a really big fan of him, and I love him on the Patriots. He's actually a good blitzing linebacker as well. 170, you got the Saints going Caden Wetjen, the weapon out of Iowa. He's definitely viewed more as a returner, but fun player nonetheless, good in space. I would love to see Kellen Moore have some fun with him. 171, the Niners go Jalen Farmer, guard out of Kentucky. You're starting to overpopulate the interior of the offensive line, but Jalen Farmer can pick up to, I think, 14 to 17 miles per hour, which is a crazy for his size. So, again, you're taking a shot on an athlete. 172, the Ravens, again, kind of doing some Eric DeCosta stuff here. Damani Jackson, corner out of Alabama. I have him just outside of day 2. I have him as an early day 3 player. Quality, and he ended up actually being a really good track athlete, if I'm not mistaken, as well as a top 100-meter player. 173, the Ravens go Alex Harkey, guard out of Oregon. Played right tackle, but definitely more built to be a guard. Again, very good value here. 174, the Raiders go Deshaun Singleton, defensive back out of Nebraska. Singleton popped off of the Senior Bowl, so great value and could end up being someone who starts for the Vegas Raiders there from 174. 175, the Jets go Red Murdoch, linebacker to Buffalo. From what I've seen, I'm not really sold on him. However, he is one of those last 3 linebackers I need to grade. Linebacker's not a bad position to target for the Jets. 176, the Chiefs go J.C. Davis, guard out of Illinois. It could be a tackle, but this is just offensive line depth. J.C. Davis's experience. I like this move. 177, the Cowboys go Skylar Thomas, safety out of Oregon State. Dude got cooked in one-on-ones a lot. I don't think he makes it to the league. 178, we have the Jets going Whiteout Williams, safety out of Ole Miss. Whiteout ended up having a couple plays at the Senior Bowl. So again, somebody unlike Skylar Thomas, in my opinion, would be a little bit more suited for the NFL. Worth a shot there at 178. 179, the Eagles go Owen Heineke, linebacker out of Oklahoma. I know him more than the other linebacker. Again, you're getting good depth here at 179. I'm not going to complain too much. Round 6 starts with the Vegas Raiders going Nolan Rucci for offensive line depth out of Penn State. I don't think he fits the mobility. I don't think he has the overall profile required to stick with the Las Vegas Raiders in a Kubiak system. I'd prefer a more athletic player. 181, the Cardinals go Jaden Roberts, guard out of Alabama. Freak athlete. He'll go higher than this, but some offensive line coach is going to have some certain thoughts about Jaden Roberts, and it's not PG because he is a freak. It's insanely strong. Definitely somebody that is well worth. I think he'll end up going at the end of round 3, early round 4, just because of the potential. 182, the Titans go Max Llewellyn, edge out of Iowa. Fantastic pass rusher, a little bit shorter arms, but they use him at defensive interior a lot during the Senior Bowl. Not a fan of that, but I do love the value there at 182. I still have him as a top 100 player. 183, the Vegas Raiders go Keyshawn Owens, running back of FIU. Really good receiving back. Honestly, I don't mind it. You want to use him as a gadget weapon. 184, the Giants go TJ Hall, corner out of Iowa. Smart corner. I just never really fully bought in on TJ Hall. It's just it's worth depth here at 186. And again, IQ is hard to find on a consistent basis, especially in round 6. 185, the Commanders go Dan Villari, tight end out of Syracuse. He's a route running tight end. Nothing really to get overly excited about, but he wasn't necessarily great. This is a player I love. Seahawks go Kieron Crawford, edge out of Auburn at 186. I think he had 23% pass rush win rate, so really good, especially for this range. And when you are losing some edge rushers, most likely to free agency, I am a massive supporter of it. So Kieron Crawford, edge out of Auburn, incredible pick there for the Seahawks. 186. 187, the Bengals got a space eater in Tim Keenan, defensive interior out of Alabama. Another reason why I was saying don't go defensive interior early for a team that needs a space eater. Think about the Bills. Tim Keenan's kind of going to be doing your job, even though significantly different build than Darrell Jackson. But I'm saying if you want someone to eat space, there's also a 4-round difference here. 188, you got the Saints going Caden Barnett, offensive lineman of Wyoming. Did not stand out to me. I think he was at the Shrine. Not somebody who really stood out to me, but again, I'm not overly knowledgeable about Caden Barnett outside of my limited experience with him. 189, the Patriots go Eli Heidenreich, wide receiver, running back out of Navy. He actually popped off the Shrine. I do think he passed the eye test, and he's just so fun. It's such a Patriots thing to do too. So I'm a fan of it. Amazing pick here at 190 for the Giants. Emil Wagner, right tackle at Notre Dame. I don't think he makes it this far. Part of me thinks he'll end up being sniped at the end of day 2. 191, the Giants go DJ Rogers, tight end out of TCU. I have not studied him. I like the idea of tight end for the Giants, though. 192, Titans go Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker to Arizona State. I like the highlights I've seen. He is one of the last 3 as well. So you guys have now seen what linebackers I really want to study. But Keyshawn Elliott is an absolute beast from what I've seen. Will end up being probably a early day 3 player. 193, the Buccaneers go Fernando Carmona, offensive lineman of Arkansas. Disrespectfully, fuck this guy. Just go and look at what he's done in the past. He's a dirty player, stomping on dudes' arms and legs and shit. I don't really care the backlash I could get from that. Just genuinely, I hate dirty players, and I don't care if he's good from it now. You just still did it, and I don't think you deserve the opportunity to go into the NFL if you do that. That's just my honest opinion. So, there's not many players at all that I ever feel that way about, but yeah, disrespectfully, I don't even want to get into it with Fernando Carmona. Alan Herron, tackle out of Maryland, had some good reps there in the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Goes at 194 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're just taking a developmental offensive lineman, probably won't make it. 195, the Falcons go Marlon Klein, tight end out of Michigan. I think he goes a lot earlier than this, but I love the fit for the Falcons. I mean, Kyle Pitts, he'll be a Kyle Pitts role in terms of the overall archetype that would fit that role. I don't mind it. Again, he's not going to start, but I do like the fact that at least the vision for him is off the bat, something that's clear. 196, the Patriots go Virgil, wide receiver at Texas Tech. Dude had some more wheels on him than you expected. It looked really good at the Senior Bowl. Love Caleb Douglas too. So good receiving core there for Texas Tech in this draft. 197, the Bengals go Tanner Koziel, tight end out of Houston. Reliable player, good value at 197. 198, the Panthers go Cade Klubnik, quarterback out of Clemson. Fully support this one. Not the biggest quarterback, but in my opinion, definitely someone who deserves to be taken late round 3, early round 4. 199, you got the Green Bay Packers taking Jack Strand, quarterback out of MSU Moorhead. Don't know. I would love to know. Moorhead. That's the only thing that I could take from this. And for the sake of this episode being PG, I just cussed like a minute ago. Let's continue on. 200, the Patriots go James Brockermeyer, center out of Miami. A good depth player. I don't mind it. He dies a slow death. Like kind of just somebody that you probably want in the practice squad. 201, the Texans go Jake Slaughter, center out of Florida. He also had some good reps at the Senior Bowl. I ripped him a new one at the start of this year because I used to be a big fan of his, but I definitely think he's probably a round 5, round 4 guy. 202, the Chargers go Mason Reiger, edge out of Wisconsin. Dude tore it up at the Shrine Bowl. Definitely could be a huge steal in the draft. Probably see him as a stealer in round 6. 203, the Lions go Eric Rivers, burner out of Georgia Tech. Good receiver there. Good value. Worth a shot. Could be good returning duties or at least special teams. 204, Browns go Ephesians Prysack, corner out of Washington. In my opinion, he's better than Decario Davis. Amazing value there. 204. I think he could stick to a 53. 205, Rams go center Jaeger Barton out of Kentucky. Had a good Shrine Bowl week. Again, 6th round pick that you're going to throw a dart at the center position. 206, Cleveland Browns go Joe Royer, tight end out of Cincinnati. Had some blocking upside. Tight end most likely is not going to be there in terms of David Njoku. So depth tight end, never a bad idea. 207, the Commanders get a freak and Tyreek Sapp, edge out of Florida. Dude's built like a freight train. Definitely someone who I think goes in like the 5th round for someone who gets excited about it. 208, the Rams go Caleb Proctor, defensive interior out of Southeast Louisiana. I love this move. Caleb Proctor balled the frick out. Yeah, I used up my cusses, all right, at the Shrine Bowl. Definitely somebody that will end up making a team happy if we're taking him late. Talked about this guy early, 209. Ravens doing my thing again. Wesley Williams, edge out of Duke. Huge fan of him. I have him as an early day 3 grade. 210. The Patriots go Nigel Kelly, edge out of UCF. Freak build. Definitely worth it. He has, I believe, 35-inch arms. Worth taking a shot on there for the Patriots to get some edge depth. 211. The Lions go Sire Wright, corner out of Nebraska. I have a true day 2 grade on Sire Wright. Good in the nickel, good on the boundary. Ended up also a Zuckerman player. So shout out to my guy Kenny Zuckerman, agent. But Sire Wright is a baller. I'm a huge fan of Sire Wright, and I think he'd be a great fit for the Lions. I just don't think he'll last at 211. 212, Detroit Lions go Seju Traore, tight end out of Mississippi State. He's a burner tight end. I like these 2 pickups here, both from the Shrine Bowl. Smart moves. And also the Lions were pretty heavily there at the Shrine Bowl. So it looks like they might end up picking up some of these guys. 213, Pittsburgh Steelers go Matt Hibner, tight end of SMU. Had the chance of talking to Matt a couple of times. Seems like a quality dude. Good blocker, underrated route runner. Don't know if he's going to stick to a team like the Steelers, though. 214, I love this one. The Steelers go Jaden Duggar, linebacker out of Louisiana. He is the last of the 3 linebackers I wanted to study. So now you have all 3. Ended up popping off, has great frame. I think 6'4" to 6'5", 240. Good range. Definitely someone worth taking a shot on. 215, the Cowboys go Jaden Kennedy, defensive back out of Oregon. Underrated, fun defensive back, especially since your DC's a DB coach. Makes sense. 216, the Colts go Robert Henry Jr., running back out of UTSA. Pissed off that he wasn't, I don't think he was there at the Shrine Bowl. I don't think he was healthy. But Robert Henry Jr. is somebody who I have as a top 5 running back in the class. That'd be a great move. Round 7, Cardinals go James Thompson, defensive interior out of Illinois. Huge fan of his. Ended up popping off to me versus Ohio State this year. Ended up doing amazingly well at the Shrine. 218, the Titans go Rayshon Benny, defensive interior out of Michigan. Honestly, he's an underrated player, especially at this point. People just had him as high as like round 2 before and at the start of the year, and that's why I pushed back. He's well worth a day 3 selection. Good pickup there for the Titans. 219, I think the Raiders took Virgil earlier as well. I might be mistaken, but they take Caleb Douglas, wide receiver at Texas Tech here at 219. One of my favorite players, and ended up having some bad drop issues. That cooled off at the end of the year. Really proud of him for ending that off, but very tough player to guard at 6'4". 120, the Bills go Anez Cooper, guard out of Miami. Very underrated guard. I like the upside that he brings. 221, the Bengals go Marvin Jones Jr., edge out of Oklahoma. Not really a big mover for me. Definitely very, very deep in terms of your depth, probably practice squad. Lions go Logan Taylor, offensive lineman out of Boston College. I did not see enough of him, nor did he pop off to me in any bowl game. 223, the Commanders take a shot again in round 7 on running back with Nick Singleton, running back out of Penn State. Nick Singleton broke his foot at the Senior Bowl. This is a realistic range for him to go. So the Commanders did it once. Let's see if lightning strikes twice. 224, the Steelers go Devon Boykin, defensive back out of Indiana. He had some good games, honestly. I think he made some of the stock reports. So, I like taking a shot on championship-winning defensive backs, especially at this range. 225, the Cowboys go Roman Hemby, running back out of Indiana. Quality depth back. Honestly, I like that. I like that pickup for the Cowboys. 226, you got the Cincinnati Bengals going Kendrick Law, wide receiver out of Kentucky. Some good burners there, if I'm not mistaken, former Bama wide receiver. Again, 226, take the athletes. 227, the Dolphins go Cam Ball, defensive interior out of Arkansas. He was as high as a 3rd rounder at the start of the year. I do like this range for taking a shot on him in terms of the upside. 228, the Bills go after one of my favorite players from my SMU Mustangs, Isaiah Nwokobi, the safety. Really reliable player. Shame that he did not get a combine invite. Great pickup for the Bills. 229, the Buccaneers go Fred Davis, corner out of Northwestern. I did not study him, but I do love taking shots on DBs this late. 230, the Colts go Dylan Wade, guard out of Auburn. I like the other guard out of Auburn as well in terms of like the upside, but I don't think either of them stick to the NFL. 231, the Falcons go Diego Pounds, tackle at Ole Miss. Did not have the health needed to play at the Shrine. It's a depth player. I didn't really believe in him. 232, Joe Fagnano, quarterback at UConn, goes to the Rams. A really weird throw motion, but again, a lot of experience. Going to be just a quality backup. 233, Jaguars go Riley Nowakowski, the tight end / fullback from Indiana. I love his game, number 37. Good H-back, man. Ended up having some good reps. I was trying to remember who I was watching versus Indiana, linebacker-wise. I just could not get sold on him. But Nowakowski ended up having some good blocks in that game, some good receptions. Definitely, again, very Jacksonville Jaguars pick, but also something that I support. Vikings at 234 go Jack Kelly, linebacker to BYU. I like investing in late round linebackers, especially since the last time they did that, they got Ivan Pace, who ended up netting positive, especially for the investment. 235, the Vikings go after a tackle, but will be a guard. Riley Mahlman out of Wisconsin. 6'8", shorter arms, but left and right tackle versatility. Good depth player to have. 236, the Packers go Aaron Hall, defensive interior out of Duke. Have not studied him. But I was thinking that this would have been Aaron Graves, I think, defensive interior out of Iowa. But I guess not. 237, the Steelers go Xavier Sorey, junior linebacker to Arkansas. He's 220 pounds. He's an edge rusher. With the amount of edges that the Steelers have already gotten, I don't see this being a good move. 238, the Jets go Quintavious Hutchins, edge out of Boston College. He's a DPR, ended up having a couple good reps there at the Senior Bowl. I don't mind it. because he ended up having some good reps at the Senior Bowl. 239, the Bears go Trey Zune, offensive lineman at Texas A&M, has experience at left tackle and also pairing up with Demetrius Crownover that they took earlier in this draft. Also has some center versatility from this past year. Good pickup there. I don't know if he lasts past round 4. 240, the Vikings go JMG, John Michael Gillenberg, tight end out of Wyoming. Good team to take a shot on tight end, and good burner as well. Could end up netting as someone who actually sticks. 241, the Bears go Deion Burks, wide receiver to Oklahoma. At midseason, there were round 2 talks about him. Great speed. Will get buried on the Bears, but again, I don't blame the Bears for taking a shot on him at that point. 242, the Jets go Chris Hilton Jr., wide receiver at LSU. Did not stand out to me. I don't think he sticks to 53. Got to see him in person at the Senior Bowl. 243, the Texans go Sawyer Robertson, quarterback out of Baylor. Honestly, could have a similar role in their offense. Not a bad backup to have. 244, we have the Vikings going Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. Definitely worth the upside. Just needs mechanically a lot of work and some consistency there. 245, the Jaguars go Will Kakmarek, tight end out of Ohio State. Great blocking tight end. Will pair up with the other weapons they've drafted well. 246, Broncos go Luke Altmaier, quarterback at Illinois. Good mobility. Honestly, I like the fit in this offense as well. Good pickup. 247, you got the Niners going Ahmad Moses, defensive back out of SMU. Another real quality player there with Isaiah Nwokobi. Big fan of both of them. Great pickup for the Niners. 248, the Browns go Harrison Wallace, wide receiver at Ole Miss. Wish I got to see him in person. Had some big explosive games. Good pickup there at 258. 249, the Ravens go after Carson Beck, quarterback out of Miami. Good mobility. Again, nice backup quarterback to have. Good pickup there. 250, the Rams go Byron Parham, linebacker to UConn. Hell yeah. He was on Superstars for a couple of the stock reports. Good pickup. 251, again, good pickups here. Broncos go after athletic offensive lineman Chris Adams out of Memphis. Huge fan of him. Gave him a shout today. 252, Baltimore Ravens get Eric Gentry, linebacker to USC. Freak build, good mobility, and great character. Good pickup there at the end of the draft. In 253, got the Colts going Ethan Kaliak-Manis, quarterback out of Rutgers. Sniper arm, but doesn't really have great throw strength. Very inconsistent. Good backup to take a shot on. Romello Brinson, wide receiver at SMU, goes to the Packers at 254. He's a burner. I don't think he sticks to 53. 255, this is a great player. Broncos go Adrian Smith, cornerback out of Toledo. Arguably the best player at the Shrine. I think he'll go early day 3. And 256, how many more picks are there? Okay, we had 2 more. Rams go Azilian Hamilton, corner out of Fresno State. I did not see him. And neither did I see Inai Falai, tight end out of Wake Forest for the Packers at 257. But that's the video. Thank you so much for watching, sticking with me for all these picks. I love y'all. See you later. Peace.